Hello guys, my name is Volo. I'm a Bubble developer and recently I've published iOS Android app using Bubble and BDK Native. This app got early traction of around several hundreds users and also got accepted into Silicon Valley Accelerator. And in this video, I will share my experience. I would share the workflow to create mobile app, and I will share my tips that I wish I knew before I started. To start with, let's talk about the development workflow. The tech stack that I used was Bubble.io no-code platform plus a third party called the BDK Native. This BDK offers a Bubble plugin which enables us to build native functionality. Additionally, they sell iOS and Android build. That means actually the app that you can submit for a review and publish in the Play Store and App Store. So the workflow to create a mobile app is the following. The first step, you need to select what type of app do you want. Either it's only for mobile or for both tablet and mobile. Depending on this step, you'll choose, like, do you need to draw design for tablets or not? And this is pretty important, and we will talk about this in a minute. The second step is to download BDK Native app to test the progress. BDK also offers this BDK Native app, and you can just access it either via Play Store on Android or use a special Testflight link on the BDK Native website to download it on your iOS device. The third step is to decide whether it will be a single page app or not. Single page means that all content of all sections is located within one page. It affects the load speed. However, transition between different sections in this case is faster than if you create separate page per section. Fourth step is to start the development, and this step is that simple as it sounds, because there is no difference between building like mobile first web app and mobile app using Bubble. So you actually do all you do building web app. However, there are some nuances. For example, it's better to use BDK Native plugin to enable native features. For example, if like user want to log in, or if this user want to access restricted functionality that can be used only for logged in users, you should display to him a pop-up. So instead of showing Bubble pop-up, you can add native pop-up that will show like native pop-up on iOS and Android, and it will look like more organic for users. And this functionality and a lot of more you can get using Bubble BDK Native plugin. So after you finish all your development, after you test the app, you can purchase and request iOS Android build. You pay money to BDK team. You ask them to generate build for you, and you're done. After that, you start preparing for Google Apple review. This means some additional steps, creating some accounts like OneSignal, Firebase, Google Console, App Store Connect account, etc. Then you submit for review. After that, you either are published or you get additional iteration, like you get rejected, you need to fix something and submit again one more time until you are published. So right now we will go through each step in details. The first step. So as I said, you can create like an app that would be accessible on iPads and iPhones, but you can do that only for iPhones. So if an iPad user goes to App Store, search for your app, he doesn't see it, or he sees it, but he can't download it. Another option is to prepare custom design for both iPads and mobile phones if you want to also have iPad app. And this is the best one. It's time consuming, but no risk that you will be rejected. And the most risky way is to ignore iPad view, just make the fixed width of your app of, for example, 500. And on iPads, it will look like on the screenshot that I show you on this slide. So it looks okay, but however, Apple has high demand, like they require like high quality design. This is not it. There is really risky decision to make fixed widths and ignore iPad view. And most likely it will be rejected. In my case, I've disabled iPad view. So I purchased iOS Android build only for mobile devices. Next step in mobile app development. You optionally can download BDK Native app that actually is a test environment where you launch your app, test features, maybe even do some user research, usability test once you finish your app, etc. However, it's not finished app. It's just like a tool to test it, to test the app. Like in case we go professional, we make business and it's not like a hobby, it's like professional business. Then we finish the app, buy, purchase, build, and publish into App Store, Play Store. This is powerful thing, and it works like you download it. For, as I said, in Google Play, you can access it directly from mobile Play. For iOS, you can go to bdk.com/native and access Testflight URL. Then you download Testflight app on your iPhone or iPad. Go to this Testflight link and it will redirect you into your Testflight, and the download, like the app download, will be launched and you will get your BDK Native app for testing on your iOS device. Once you download it, you open it, you sign into your BDK account. Afterwards, you make some minor adjustments, like you need to specify a URL of the app that you want to launch, mention some minor requirements in preview your app, like here. So as you can see, I provided the link to app, domain, and that was enough. Afterwards, you tap on launch the app, launch your preview. Once you do this, the app starts to be launched. You see default loaders that can be changed, and the app content is opened. Let's move on. So the next question is select, like, do you need a single page app or like a separate page per section? My app was single page app. It affected in some case the speed. However, the speed was still great in my opinion. But as for development, it was comfortable for me to manage all this stuff on my page. I used a lot of reusable elements, played them one by one without like relevant. I show relevant content, while unrelevant content I hide and I collapse this content, because in Bubble you have group element and you can collapse the height of this element when it's hidden. After you select what type of app you want, like sorry, I forgot. So when you select that, for example, you need to have a login feature on separate page and the app content on the separate page, or you want to have each section on separate page, you can still make it intuitive and usable. And once you want to change the page, you show to the user interactive loader. It will be in my opinion, very slow, because like each time you want to change the section, you need to wait until the loader loads. However, it's still intuitive and good, but I prefer single page. So the development, when you start the development, next step, it's the same simple as it is when you build the web app. Yeah, but as I mentioned, you can also use BDK plugins. The most powerful is BDK app plugin, the main one. It has a lot of vast functionality. You can this BDK Native plugin has major functionality. Different elements, for example, app info to get any info about the app, like one single account device ID, and by this feature you can like know to what device send the push notification. You can know what is this device, like is it Android mobile device or iOS device. You can monitor and manage GPS of the user. Also a lot of vast actions and events, like to show native pop-ups, native functionality, a lot of this native stuff. You can empower yourself with this BDK app plugin. And it increased the chances to be accepted by Apple review, because yeah, also in this video I usually talk about Apple review, because the Apple review is that strict that compared to Google review, like Google review is like the same if there weren't any review for Google, because Apple is much more like harder to go through it and pass. So once you finish the development, you can think about to purchase and request build. This process can be done earlier. The development and the request and builds can go in parallel. Like you can purchase them and request even before you start the development. However, it's very important to purchase builds not earlier than 90 days before the release date, because afterwards the build will expire and you will need to pay another $400 for new builds for Android and iOS, because the old one will expire. So how to actually request builds? You sign in into your BDK Native account, go to projects, you create new project, and here here you are required to provide some info. Here you add your custom animated loaders that will be shown on transitioning the pages or app launch. Also, you provide like, do you want to disable rotation of the app? And the most important, like also like you can here disable iPads, etc. But the most important thing here is permission request messages. Permission request messages is very huge topic to talk about, because like Apple, like I was rejected and for the first time, and the first rejection reason was permission request messages. Like in total, I was rejected 2 times, but that was the first one, and it was really, really funny because they rejected the app because of the text that wasn't clear, like in their opinion, and it was like something like, please give us access to the camera to make photos and save in gallery, something like that, and they rejected it. So we will talk a little bit later about this permission request messages. And important thing to mention that you should think like spend all your time and be very like conscious about messages, permission request messages, because after you submit for a request for the build, like if you change your mind and you want to change those messages, you will need to pay additional $39 to purchase a rebuild. However, BDK offers a free rebuild, I guess 1 rebuild, not 2, within the 14 days after purchasing the builds. Okay, let's move on. Yeah. Besides giving some info, inserting some info in BDK account, you also need to go through before build guide. And this guide becomes accessible once you purchase builds, if I'm not wrong, maybe earlier. And here you need to create Firebase and 1 single account. You need to purchase Apple developer account, Google Play account. Then you need to do some additional actions with Google Play Developer Console, App Connect, App Store Connect, account, Firebase, and 1 signal. Also, you need to add BDK team members as collaborators, and then you request the build. This step should be counted in your timeline. If you have a roadmap to build your app and you have a certain release date, you should also count these activities to not to overdo your deadlines. However, it's not that hard, like usually takes like an hour, maybe less. In my case, I spend more than 1 hour, but you can be faster than me. So after you do all this, you start preparing for Google Apple review, and these activities includes that after build guide, and here you need to provide some compliance information in your App Store Connect account and Play Store Connect account about like what is the industry of your app. Does it face the use audience, like would children use your app? Compliances, like you need to prepare terms, doc page, and the privacy page, and provide them in before you send for review. Also, you need to include them in your app. So you need to add, for example, in profile settings, links to those, etc. So once you do all this stuff after your request build and before review, you are then ready to submit. And after you submit, you are either rejected or accepted. If you're rejected, don't worry. I will give you some tips about how to deal with rejection a bit later. Now we go to tips. What I learned from building this mobile app with Bubble and BDK. So the first tip is don't use BDK select photo and take photos. If you have like marketplace or any like functionality that requires the users to upload photos, yeah, you should better use native Bubble picture uploader. It's more stable, and from my experience and from recommendation of our BDK team, it's better to use this. Second advice, when you want to make a transition between pages, you shouldn't definitely build this natively. What I mean is like I have a single page application. All content was like on one page, and the last group below all content was a loader screen. So when I want to transition between page, I trigger go to page action. I hide and collapse all app content and show the loader. And it's very wrong strategy because it works incorrectly on iOS. This is my loader screen on iOS. And I'm thankful my users didn't see it because I've known about this problem earlier. So this is loader on iOS if you build this natively, because like I was testing my app mostly on Android and didn't see this problem. In Android, it was okay. This is native, the loader built natively. Let me do something. So I want to make it slower so you can notice what is the loader. So you see native pop-up on Android, you tap sign in and you change the page. So the go to page action is triggered while it's proceeds, I show the loader. So it's wrong strategy. The correct strategy is to use BDK open link action, and you upload your custom animations when you request for a build, and it allows you to get this beautiful loader when you launch app or you transition between pages. The third advice is to permission request. Our app, it has this one. So actually we wanted to access camera and we was rejected because of this, because we said like allow access to camera to make instant photos, and it was rejected. The second mistake was like after this rejection, I immediately changed this and make more specific actions, like allow access to camera to enable you share your clothing, discuss the deal or version of swap during the chat communications with your seller, and to upload avatar picture. It was a little bit shorter, but yes, it was very specific. And my problem was I mentioned at the end, I mentioned and more. It could be also not and more, but etc. or something not that clear. And fortunately, I came up with the idea to submit it one more time. So we spent additional money to $39 to resubmit because we already used our paid rebuild, if I'm not wrong. Yes, and then I've also deleted this and more and submitted with really precise instructions why we need your camera, and it worked. The first one is to include the functionality to report, flag, object, the content that can be like can injure childs, or maybe it's content of naked people or something not that you want to see in your app. In this case, you need to, if you are a platform, you post content and user explore it. Users had to have the button to report, mention report reason, and submit. Once they report, you should filter this content, so hide. You should hide this content from this user who reported. Also, you need function to ban. If you have a platform, you need to have a function to ban other, like one user needs to have ability to ban another user. This is mandatory because Apple will reject without this. And also the Apple rejected in our rejection reason, they mentioned we need to add a ULA paragraph in our terms, but I made some additional steps. Besides adding a ULA, I also added a checkbox when you create new content in the app. Like you want to create new closing, you mention the title, description, sizes, and before you tap post, you need to check a checkbox. And this checkbox says, by creating this item, you agrees with our terms of service, and you agree that you've read these terms and you agree with them. So this increased our chances and we got published because of this workaround. The fifth tip is to don't forget about terms and privacy pages, and you should add links to your app. Like I would recommend to add a link to terms and privacy when you on the account creation, like the same for closing creation that I mentioned before. When you create account, you have email input, password, confirm password, and before you tap create account, you have a checkbox that you need to check. And this checkbox is like, by creating an account, you agree with our privacy and terms, conditions, etc. And only after you need to check this checkbox before tapping create account. Another place is like, as I said, if you create content, you have a feature to create content, you also need to restrict this feature with this additional checkbox before you post. And the last place, the third one, is profile settings. So you go to your profile settings and you have also linked terms and privacy. And when you submit for review, those fields are required from Apple and both from Apple and Google. So this is mandatory because you will not, like I'm not saying you will not be have even the chance to be rejected because you will not be able to submit for review without those links. The sixth tip is to get rid of single sign-on buttons if you are in a hurry. My problem was like, the first problem was like Google single sign-on didn't work on iOS. It cannot be fixed, and for now it can be fixed only like not show this button on iOS and show it only on Google. It can be done with the BDK Native element called bn/info dash, sorry. And the second problem is like a few hours before my new submitting for review, the Facebook button stopped work. Okay, so I just hidden it, and someone told me that Apple sign-in button is mandatory, but yeah, and a few hours before the submitting for new review, it stopped work again. No. We submitted for review and they rejected because of Apple button wasn't working correctly. And to my happiness, like I know that you can like Apple button is mandatory only if you use an like additional single sign-on services. Like if you want to add sign in with Facebook, it's mandatory to also use sign in with Apple. But if you delete all single sign-on features, you can get rid of single sign-on with Apple, Facebook, and they're not mandatory anymore. And once you do this, you save your time, you send for a review, and once you accept it, you can continue working on learning how to implement those single sign-on. My problem is Apple, and it was the second rejection, app rejection. I used zero code plugin for single sign-on with Apple, and for some reason, I don't know why. I think I stopped everything correctly. The Apple sign-in worked, but in some cases, it required to sign in 2 times. So you tap on sign in with Apple, you see this pop over, you use your finger to sign in, but after you use your finger, you are not redirected back to app. You stay here, and this is the bug, and you're required to additionally provide the Apple ID manually, and they rejected us because of this. Then I removed Apple button, and it worked. The 7th advice is to you should not worry about that your app can be accessible in browser. Apple, they don't care about it. They just explore your app that you send for review. They don't go to your browser. Also, your users definitely don't know what is the exact name of your URL to access the app. So don't worry about this. The 8th piece of advice is it's better to have custom domain name before release date, and but it's not mandatory for Apple review, and even your users won't see that you don't use custom domain. Like you can continue using app name.bubbleapps.io. However, if you, in my case, I need to change domain to custom domain name because of email developer, because of the some emails got into spam folder. So I need custom domain. I need to set up custom SendGrid account, and I cannot do this without custom domain. And if I want to add custom domain, I need some time to crash my app and for domain name to propagate. I don't have this time because I already have early traction, and we are in trouble. We cannot change to custom domain. So please think about custom domain before your release date. It will help you in the future. The 9th tip is to, if you struggle to get accepted by Apple review, you can use Testflight external testing. It gives you a link, like Testflight give you a link that is a single link, and if I'm not wrong, it's like it's active forever. You share this link with your audience, maybe launch advertising campaigns in Facebook on this link, and this link, when you insert it into browser, go to it, you get the swap app installed without any additional efforts, and it can be used for use case when you overdue your deadline and you haven't published to Apple yet. You can use external testing by Testflight, and it will in some cases work. Like it only depends on what do you want from your business, from your app, because if you're a startup, it's gonna work. In our case, we want to have something more professional, so we worked on this publishing until it was done. The 10th piece of advice is don't think, as I mentioned before, don't think that you need to finish your app before you purchase builds from BDK Native team. Because like in my case, I had confusion that like after I purchase builds, I will not be able to edit the app, but it was wrong. Like even before you purchase the builds, and you have a certain timeline before sending for review, you will be able still to develop your app. And additionally, you have a new ability, like you have to test the app, how it would be accessible and how it would see the Apple review team or your future users. So definitely don't be afraid about this. The 11th tip is to test progress not only with BDK Native app, but also in browser. And in my case, I used different browsers to test, and also I used, like, for example, one browser to log, like our app was a marketplace, so I used one app, I used one browser to log in as user A, another browser to log in as user B, and it was easier to communicate between them and test. And also I was able to test both with browser and mobile app. So to test, for example, push notification of native functionality. You will not be able to test native functionality in browser, only in your BDK Native app or purchase builds. The 12th piece of advice is about payment. So my confusion and my like a myth that I believed it was that I am gonna be rejected because I don't use Apple Pay or Apple purchases, in-app purchases. The problem is the rule is if you sell or enable your users to sell offline goods, you can use any payment procurement service like Stripe, Mobile Pay, PayPal, etc. And that is mandatory to use this service. However, if you sell digital goods, it's mandatory to use Apple in-app purchases. This Apple in-app purchases are like a bit more. They are more limited than Stripe or Mobile Pay, but that is mandatory by Apple, and they'll reject if you don't do this. And the last piece of advice, not sorry, the 13th tip is make sure you have great sign-in account creation process. It means don't use single password input when you want to create an account. Use both, and as many services, like both passwords should match. And if like one doesn't match, you need to show intuitive hint to your users that please make sure both password match. Like you don't do that. You just show red inputs. You show text like please make sure passwords match. Or if you like have an email problem, please make sure the format of input you use in the email input that matches email formatting. You should definitely include or error use cases and show message to your user. That's mandatory to be not rejected. Also, don't forget about forgot password feature, because Apple would definitely reject without forgot password, because without this feature, users won't be able to use app if they forget the app credentials. And also it's important because the Apple will soon make it mandatory to add delete account feature to your app. I think maybe it's already mandatory. And like let's say you forgot your password, you don't have a forgot password feature, but you want to delete your app because, for example, like someone broken your profile and like added some objectionable content, and this blames on you. So you need to enter your app, but you forgot the credentials and you don't have this forget password feature. It will be definitely rejected by Apple. So the last tip is to not forget to add delete account feature and reset password reset. Password reset is a bit different from forgot password. Forgot password is for account creation or login screen. Reset password is when you are already logged in. What should you do if you got rejected? So don't worry about it, because you can instantly make changes, update your app, fix all bugs Apple give you instructions, you implement them, and you submit for a new review. However, in some use cases, for example, if you got rejected because of request permission messages, then you will definitely need to purchase new build, you rebuild for $39 if you already use your free one, and you need to wait about 48 hours for new rebuild. So count this on your timeline. And also, like, development of mobile app using Bubble and classical coding is the same. They have the same problems. And you can also find all answers to your questions in any developer community about iOS app creation, Android app creation. So don't think you need to go to Bubble forum and ask why I got rejected. You can go to Stack Overflow, write the error number, the rejection reason, and you will talk with someone who built their app with Swift or Objective-C, and they will have the same problems, and you can fix them in the same way. Yeah, guys. So actually, that's it. And I'll ask you to like this post, this video. I think I will publish it on LinkedIn and YouTube. Subscribe to my channel on YouTube, Volo space G. And I wish you to be published in every effort that in every case you try to build your app, and wish you great Bubble development process. Stay tuned and bye.